Welcome back everyone, it's time to go balls deep. And oh boy, season 5 of My Hero Academia is starting along with the newest third movie releasing its trailer. The hype train has already left the station. But that's not the only exciting My Hero Academia news. The latest chapter of My Hero Academia just revealed Deku's new drip, and honestly, it's looking kinda lit. However, along with that, the world, or at least Japan of My Hero Academia, well, Japan is basically the world in anime, right guys? But regardless, in My Hero Academia, society has gone through a massive shift in perception of heroes and villains, especially on those who are supposed to be relied on. Now the ordinary people are coming to a realization that when shit hits the fan, the best person to look after you is, well, you.
What?
So like always, I'm going to break down these social dynamics going over chapter 306 and 307. Okay, let's start with summarizing what happened in chapter 306, where we start off with All Might showing how he could sense the conversation going inside of Deku, even some finer details about it, such as his master's inner conflict. We learned back in chapter 305 that All Might's vestige plays as a medium for the other vestiges to connect with All Might, in fact to even inspire him in different ways. This was even an indication of why Deku was chosen over Mirio, because as we learned from the vestiges, the power of One for All works best with someone that doesn't have a quirk. Mirio, even though he possesses a far greater talent than Deku, would not have been able to max out One for All's potential, like Deku, similar to how All Might could. Now we also learned how the truth of One for All leaked to the public, as the heroes who quit had spoken about how they heard it during the war, along with, Shigaraki specifically mentioning it. This information was initially kept private, not only to protect the power of One for All, but also to keep Deku safe before he mastered the quirks. And now there's already rumors about him having this powerful great ability. More than likely, Deku will become a target. All Might even went ahead and revealed that the reason One for All was kept a secret was so that Deku would be protected, and this secret would have kept society falling into chaos. But now there's no point, since Deku's safety is no longer guaranteed, and society, well, yeah, I guess it's doing fine, right guys?
This is fine.
But for reals though, after all the time that has passed since the war, society is still in shambles. Many civilians wanted reassurance of their safety, even if they were fed lies to keep a facade. However, any false sense of security they had shattered as Endeavor and Hawks admitted to everything they had done previously. Endeavor's past and Hawks killing twice, as well as the truth about his father, but the past is the past. Where everything Endeavor has done, there's only one thing he can do now: atone for his sins. As the #1 hero, Endeavor is willing to carry all the burdens, all the ugliness, and all the criticism of society. All he asks for in return is for everyone to just watch him. In my opinion, the expectations for these heroes are pretty unreasonable, as even things like Hawks' father and his past doesn't really concern any of the audience. As you know, Hawks' father was caught ages ago, and it was out of Hawks' control since he was a child at that time. But this all goes back to the humanistic nature of how we tend to choose leaders in society. Even though they are humans just like us, we hold them to a ridiculous yardstick of perfection. This is because we want to feel protected by someone or something beyond us and better than us. After all, these are people we rely on. If the illusion of perfection fades away, then insecurity rises. Thoughts of guidance and safety also slowly loses its way. And in the end, we come to learn the truth of the matter, that we are all alone, responsible and accountable for ourselves. Reliant on others can only go so far. Chapter 306 also reiterates this idea, as there is a huge shortage of heroes, seeing as in chapter 302 all the fake heroes were scared and didn't want to deal with any shit coming their way, so they simply just quit. However, a bright side to this was that this overall became a filtration system for the hero society, or in Killstain's logic, a purge of fake heroes, because the heroes who chose to remain through all of this madness are more than likely not doing it for personal gain. Now that the heroes, knowing their numbers have dropped, as a countermeasure to protect society from the outburst of villains, especially the triple S Tartarus kind of villains, UA High along with the other hero programs have opened the secured campuses as a designated evacuation shelter. But overall, this showcases how disrupt the world of My Hero Academia is at the moment. Like, just imagine being told to leave your homes and live in a shelter because there is a bunch of crazy ass mass murdering criminals loose. I ain't gonna lie, that's freaking scary. I'll probably shit my pants. But anyways, coming back to our boy Deku, even though Endeavor tried to cover up One for All so so that Deku and All Might wouldn't be targeted, it still didn't stop Deku from leaving UA. But as a final goodbye, he gave letters to his classmates explaining the truth before he goes rogue. I don't really blame him. One for All has been revealed to exist, and even if Endeavor says he doesn't know anything about it, it doesn't neglect the fact that several villains such as Shigaraki and All for One knows about it and can use such information to the utmost advantage, especially while society is in such turmoil. Regardless, we fast forward a couple of months and we see Deku as he looks over the city, sensing a giant villain. Living in solitude for months on end without being able to lay on someone else's shoulder is tough, much more so for a kid like Deku. No matter how many crazy feats he pulls off, Deku still is an emotionally vulnerable child. Like, just from the lack of facial expressions he has is a direct contrast to his hopeful and cheery expression he had in chapter 1. This then brings us to chapter 307, starting by showcasing the state of things, as society in Japan has become a lawless ground for civilians and villains to do as they please. We start with some interaction between the third years of the Ketsubutsu Academy, Nakagame and Shindo, where these two are looking for civilians to relocate to the shelter. Oh, and if you guys are thinking who the heck is Shindo, which I mean, come on, like no one actually remembers this guy. Well, my guy is basically Deku's doppelganger. You heard me right. Shindo was a straight up copy and paste job, bro. I'm telling you, Horikoshi literally used Deku to design this dude. Well, regardless if you guys don't remember him, here's a short refresher. He was one of the opponents Deku faced during the provisional hero license exam. He introduced himself by trying to shake hands with class 1A when Bakugo calls out his ulterior motive and true intention back in chapter 103. Anyways, coming back to the chapter, there's a group of civilians who are unwilling to evacuate because of heroes like them. Heroes are already hated, so teenage heroes have no shred of respect from the people who lost their faith. The group of civilians refuses to move from where they are as they don't believe heroes are good enough to protect them anymore, and that if they are even fully capable of defending themselves, if the heroes gain another chance and fails, the consequences are mostly going to fall down on the civilians getting hurt. However, Shindo informs these civilians who want to protect themselves that there are dangerous escapees and even near high-end nomus roaming around whose powers and strength far surpasses that of looters. Untrained civilians foreign to safety measures in battle is, needless to say, a bad idea. But Shindo's warning is paid no heed. Trust their own competence and abilities more than they trust these heroes. These civilians' nature once again comes back to the villain vs hero encounter we see in chapter 300, where the glass filled with hope and the fate towards the heroes had shattered. We saw people defending their own homes from dangerous villains who had escaped from high security prisons, and of course they failed to protect themselves and their businesses, and just to put salt on their wounds, what showed up predictably late only to see the injured civilians on the ground. After the war, everyone hates these heroes. People are blaming the heroes for getting them in this situation in the first place, as Darby, one of the main guys who seemed to have started all of this from the people's perspective, told them that Endeavor, the number 1 hero, caused him to become what he is now. Similarly, the number 2 hero's dad was a villain as well. The public are seeing the hero organization as a corrupted husk of ideals, and they are not to be trusted. As I mentioned before, Horikoshi emphasizes this in chapter 300, with the number 9 hero suddenly retiring instead of helping with the experience and knowledge he possesses with his old age. Anyways, Shindo is left in a weird predicament. How can he help those who don't trust their help? He even thinks about if he should have forced the civilians out. But then they abruptly receive a call, hastily being informed of the aforementioned escapee being close by, headed straight for their direction. And in little to no time, the escapees fly sky high before crash landing into a building. The one crashing into the building is none other than the villain Muscular, the same villain Deku fought in episode 42 and chapter 75. Muscular then apprehends the two, asking if they are the only two around, hoping that they were more heroes to play around with. Shindo realizes how much big trouble this guy is gonna be, tells Tatami to request help from Smile Sensei. Given their lack of power to stop Muscular and save the civilians on their own, Tatami asks what is Shindo gonna do, to which he states he will try to hold back Muscular as long as possible. However, Muscular heard this and invited him to try. Meanwhile, inside the building where the civilians are hiding, the old man civilian decides he couldn't stand back any longer and watch his town get destroyed. But just at that moment, Tatami runs in, informing them all the high-risk villains are running havoc and they should evacuate immediately. But this old geezer has no chill, pushing past her and tells her that it's none of the heroes' concern and he isn't gonna listen to them. Just as Tatami states she isn't gonna let these people go out and meet their death, Muscular slams Shindo into a nearby building, completely manhandling the guy. Muscular then notices a building containing the civilians and recalls the proverb, a hero's always in the vicinity of civilians he's protecting, giving Muscular the idea that there are civilians nearby for him to have fun with. Shindo, however, attempts to escape but is still smothered by a ton of muscle fiber. He then activates his maximum vibration as a last resort, which seems to have worked at first, but Muscular then just adds more layers of fiber to protect himself from the shock. Just as Muscular was about to finish off Shindo, as Tatami and the civilians watched in shock, something smashed into Muscular, sending the guy flying off. From the smokes of the impact, a masked figure with a familiar voice recognizes Muscular. It's of course our boy Deku, all dripped up in his tattered hero costume with Torino's cape. Yes guys, my man's looking like Ben's Riley's Scarlet Spider look, with the hoodie and all that. Just look at him. This is definitely a green Spidey costume. And look, even Deku's danger senses was tingling, which was how he was able to find them. Muscular starts to grin manically when he hears Deku's voice, wondering if it's actually him. Deku reached Shindo so fast because of his danger sense quirk, and as we learn from the Vestige dream, Deku's proficiency in using his quirks gets better with each large mental trauma he endures. Coupled with his conversation with the original masters of his quirk, he has gotten much better at using them. We even saw in the chapter 306 ending page that Deku was witnessing a building collapse with high impact, just like the fight with Shindo and Muscular. Using his Spidey sense, he pinpointed their location and got in there just in time to save Shindo. But most importantly guys, another thing to note here would be Deku's new drip. Alright guys, I know I said this so many times, but seriously, Deku is rocking his hero costume from head to toe. Previously Deku wouldn't cover his head, but now he has. If you guys remember when Deku wore his full costume, Bakugo and everyone else made fun of him for looking too much like All Might. So Deku stopped wearing the headgear as he didn't want people suspecting his relationship to All Might. However, now that everyone knows about One for All, there was no problem. And plus, his headgear could be seen as an answer to All Might's statue in chapter 300. It was tagged with the label, "I'm not here," where this costume could be a reminder an essence of All Might is still present inside of Deku. Not only this, but Deku is also rocking the scarf of Gran Torino, who Deku sees as a valuable sensei. Now we don't know the fate of Gran Torino and what exactly happened to him. We know from chapter 298 that Gran Torino was in bad condition. My man's pretty much in death's doors. However, the doctor did say that Gran Torino and Aizawa Sensei would have been much worse off if they gotten attention any later. And from Deku's Vestige dream, it does seem that Gran Torino is still alive. But Deku adorning his scarf means that Gran Torino is out of commission, probably for good. But overall, even the ripped top state of his costume could be seen as representing the current state of Hero Society, which is also broken and tattered. Anyway guys, that's it for this video. I seriously can't wait for Muscular vs Deku. Not only will we be witnessing Deku's perfection of his quirks, but also potential new ones. However, it hasn't been too long, so I doubt Deku has come to unlock the other ones, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, don't forget to buy our merch and follow us on all our social medias. Until then, I'll catch you guys till next time.